So, but what I'm saying is that what I've done are not rocket science. They are things that anyone can do. Just find out what exactly you desire for your life, right? Identify people who have had those success because they are not new. Be willing to pay. Be willing to pay. Be willing to pay. A lot of people want result, but they don't want to pay what it requires. Nice. You want to write a book, you want people to buy your book, you must be willing, ready to buy other people's books. You want people to pay for your courses, you must pay for other people's courses. You want to organize events and people pay you in dollars. Before people started paying me money in dollars to attend my event, I paid in dollars to attend other people's events, and I have not stopped because that's the way life functions, right?
Welcome to Voices with Victoria, the series that unlocks the power of resilience. Join me and industry experts as we explore career development, human capacity, nation building, and entrepreneurship.
Hello, it's another exciting episode of Voices with Victoria Undu. You can see I'm all smiles because guess what? I have somebody very massive, a global figure right here in the studio with me for another episode. And trust me, you're going to have such an exciting, empowering, thought-provoking time right in this episode. So join me as I make welcome to this session, the one and only founder and CEO of the Youth Spark Africa, Mr. Raymond Okpani.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, Raymond.
Hi, Victoria.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
I can see. Flying everywhere to Rwanda, in fact, you're everywhere around the globe. Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
So, who is, first of all, introductions. Who is Raymond Okpani? We're seeing all those glory that you are. Who are you? And, what's your background like leading up to who you are now?
All right, Victoria, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor being here to share my experience on your platform. My name is Raymond Okpani, like you rightly mentioned. And I am the founder of Youth Spark Pan-Africa, basically a community of young emerging leaders and budding entrepreneurs who are over 5,000 of them that are across 27 countries, which I've been privileged to go to 15 of those countries to engage with these young people. So I'm very passionate about leadership and enterprise development of young people, which again started as a result of the second question which you asked me, what was my upbringing like? I would say that my upbringing wasn't just like a conventional like my peers did. First of all was that I, like a lot of people, wanted to study medicine.
This medicine, you people want to
study? Yeah, I wanted to study medicine because there was a reason why I wanted to study medicine. It wasn't like my parents wanted me to do that, but I stayed a lot in the communities and I saw how there were a lot of people who were dying of, avoidable sicknesses as a young person. So I felt like if only I could get into that space, I could make a lot of difference. But unfortunately, it was not to happen because, I did well in secondary school, graduated as a senior prefect, did very well. I was teaching at some point. I learned mathematics alone. There's this textbook called Comprehensive Mathematics.
I
remember I had to find a way to buy, comprehensive mathematics from one of my junior students. Then, bent and studied mathematics. I started teaching mathematics to my class, taught my classmates, taught the junior ones in SS1, and then I taught some seniors that were also humble and all. When somebody understands that I don't know mathematics, but I need somebody to teach me exactly. So I was privileged to share with those people. And when I left secondary school, there was no way I was going to go to the university. And being the first son, I have 6 siblings. I have 3 sisters and I have 3 brothers.
Wow.
So it was a lot of responsibility. So I couldn't go to school at the time. So I got working. I started working in a hotel. I worked for 2 years. Wow. So the experience I gained, and it's not also like now where people just get jobs and they don't undergo any form of real training. Yeah, I was, thoroughly trained by a consultant in the hospitality industry for like 3 weeks. So I understand all the basics of hospitality management, which is also why as I travel around the world, one of the things I'm very sensitive about is how hotels, provide services and everything. So So I worked there for 2 years, and then I had to leave because I got an offer to travel abroad for the first time, but it was not going to be on a very good note because they were to, drive me into some stuff. I may not want to talk online, but then I resisted and I wasn't interested in doing that. And so the same people I had served for 2 years, who were my very close, had become my big senior friends, turned and became like, enemies immediately,
Wow.
So imagine when you have been smiling with someone, you serve them, you get their drinks, food.
And the tides just changed.
Exactly, just switch like this. And so I had to run away from the city, ran to another city, hid myself for like 3 months. But I think one other thing that was significant when I was, working at the hotel was that because I was not in school, so I enrolled into a computer program. That was when they were having this cyber cafe thing.
Okay.
So I enrolled into a computer to do computer appreciation for like 3 months. So that certification I got was the only thing I had when I ran away. So I ran to a city, stayed there for 3 months, and with that certificate, I was able to get a job, with the local government service commission in Ebonyi State, to work with the permanent secretary at the time. And I think that is also what now started changing the trajectory of the whole science thing, because now working with the permanent secretary, that is a core administrative field. Like I was working close as the computer operator. So now this is somebody who wanted to study medicine, and I find myself,
studying, you're in government.
in government, where I was playing around with the documents and of course, civil servants, there's a way, no disrespect to them, but I think that a lot of them are not curious like science people. Scientists are very curious. You want to ask more questions. You want to read more. You want to ask a lot of questions. See a document, you are quick to read. What is this about? So I got in there with the science mentality. So it kind of surged my results. I was able to do a whole lot. And I was 22 when I got an appointment as a special assistant to the head of service. Now,
wow.
It was something that happened. I didn't have a university degree. I was not a core civil servant, and I was just 22. Like, what does he know that he wants to be an SA to head of service is like you are placed in grade level 12, step 2. So some people who finish all their life in civil service, they will never get to that level.
The speed at which you moved.
Yeah, so, but that also like exposed me to really, really getting into a lot of work. It came with more responsibility. I had a boss that was really, really a technocrat in the field of administration. So I gained massive experience in that field, which within the period, I also started volunteering also. I volunteered for 6 years. So within the time I was working with government, I was also concurrently volunteering. Doing a lot of work in the communities.
Impact service and
then when I now get back to my space, I work in the government space. So I did a lot of work. So it made that I had a lot of experience. So many people didn't know that I had nothing to do with the university. So I even had people who will argue on my head to say,
he went to he's
school,
a graduate.
The graduate is not a graduate. When they start arguing,
but you still subjected yourself to that learning process, and the experience. You went through all of that.
Exactly. So he's a graduate, is not a graduate. And it was always fun when I see people do that. But but those didn't really also remove my mind from the fact that, okay, we'll still get to school at some point. I remember at some point I decided to get back to school. I got an admission to study applied biology then, and then I had already formed, my life has already been patterned. I had a structure. I was sleeping only 4 hours every day because I had a lot I was doing. There was a time for my studies. Even though I was not in school, I was reading. I had a timetable for everything. My life was structured. So I now get into the university to do, it was a part-time program, only Friday and Saturdays, to do applied biology. And after 8 months, I had to call myself to order to say, are you really sure this is what you want to do? Exactly. Are you really sure this is what you want to do? Because being in the administrative phase, some people say, go and do public administration. But I was still trying to run away from admin to say, I want to do science.
Science, okay.
So it was trying to dabble between science and arts that I now said, okay, let me do applied biology. But getting there, it was a part-time program. It wasn't inspiring. Like the quality I was getting, I had already built myself way above what I was getting. And I wasn't one that was looking forward to just the certificate. I wanted the knowledge, right? I wasn't getting the knowledge. So after 8 months, I walked out of the university. I said, you know what, any year I'm ready to do this. I'm going to study abroad, just not because people are doing jackpot or whatever, but I needed to get into an environment that helps me to, expand my worldview so that I can actually give back more to my community and also to build wider network. But all this whole thing I have just said right now were the things that culminated to the work that I'm doing now with Spark Pan Africa.
Wow. And then I'm also particularly interested, your impact has gone beyond Nigeria, has gone across borders. What steps did you actively take? What strategies did you take to position yourself internationally? And what advice do you have for young people who also want to make their mark, impact, or business, want to go global on that?
So, yeah. So the truth is that whatever it is that I've done is not rocket science. Yeah. It's not something nobody can actually do. It's just everything. Success has a blueprint. Whatever you see out there, there is something that made it work. So I think that one of the first things that, helped me to start out on this journey was actually one thing I love talking about, which is my personal brand. Right. So first thing I did was that, first of all, I realized that I did not have the capacity to compete at the same level with other people.
Capacity.
So I didn't have the capacity. So first was that I didn't have a university degree. So it means that if we're going to get a job, I couldn't get a job. I didn't have a hands-on skill. I was not into coding, whatever. Because again, I lived in Abakaliki at the time. So it wasn't also like some people that were in Lagos who had access to opportunities, had access to training. I didn't know all those things based on the environment where I was staying. So I realized that, so what I was doing first thing first was that I discovered what I wanted, right? You need to be very clear about what you wanted. I had to ask myself, what exactly do I really want? And defining what I really wanted helped me to start seeking out where those things are, people who already had those results. So what did I do? I remember when I used to use night bus, I would travel all the way from, Ebonyi back in those days to Lagos. I will always travel back from Ebonyi to Lagos to attend Live Your Dreams Africa by Bankole Williams, all those meetings. I'll take another night bus, I'll go to Lagos, because that was what was cheaper for me then. So I couldn't afford the day trips.
And look at you now, flying everywhere.
I couldn't afford the day trips because day trips maybe, let's say 6,000, and then the night buses, you can do 2,500 or 3,000, whatever. So it was a lot of risk, but yeah, I had to do them. So that's the second thing that I did. I had to find out where those things I desired were, predominant. I started going there. And then the next thing I started asking myself, the future that I desire for myself, what kind of person do I need to be when I get there? So who do I need to be when I get to the future? Whoever that person is, I need to start becoming that person now. So what did I do? I started, changing my brand image. I started, it started influencing the things that I talk about. It started influencing the things my clothing. It started influencing the kind of association I had. And I mean, this was very critical at some point in my life. I had to, drastically change my environment. I was squatting at the point, I remember in 2016, 2017, I've written it a couple of times that it was like the worst years of my life. Those were the years that I lost everything. When you say you lost everything, when you are finished having as in government and then you are no longer in government, no plan, I couldn't get a job, nothing. I was evicted from my house twice. Like I was evicted from the first house. I hustled, got another house after 1 year. I couldn't pay. I was evicted again. And I lost everything. I lost everything. Didn't have a job, didn't have a house, was squatting. And, I remember I even lost a relationship that I had built for like 5 years then. And it was so depressing. It was like insane, actually. So, but in the midst of this whole thing, I knew that I needed to pick myself back. So I started nurturing the kind of things I was talking about. The vision I had, I was always talking about them. Bearing in mind what Dr. Myers said, if it is genuine, provision is going to come.
For every genuine vision, there
provision
is
is going to come. So the problem is that a lot of people have vision that are not genuine. And so they struggle thinking that God is not answering. But when you look at it very well, you find out that this thing you're looking for, you don't really need it. You don't need this 5 million. This 5 million you're looking for, 1 million can actually do it. It's like somebody that wants to wed. You see someone that spends 50 million to do a wedding. You want to do 50 million wedding, but you don't have the capacity. Meanwhile, another person can do an excellent wedding with 2 million. Do you understand? So I made sure that the vision I had were genuine. There was never an ulterior motive behind the things that I was doing. I wasn't doing it just to take advantage of people. And which is also why today people attend our meetings across, the countries where we have our meetings. They pay quite a lot of money, but at the end of the day, they get value. They come there, they now see that even the money that they paid was actually worth the entire thing that they have paid. So I started building my brand, to influence the things I was talking about. And for any other person out there, just know that the world is watching and the universe does not lie. Whatever you put out there, that's what it's going to give back to you. So
you reap, you sow.
No matter what,
whatever you sow, you reap.
A lot of people put out memes. So there are some things you never see me put on my status, and it's very deliberate. No matter, I may laugh at them, but they will never. In fact, I had two of my friends that if I feel something is very funny, I will distribute it to two of them. They'll post it on their status on my behalf, but it will never come out from my own status, right? So I started forming the things that I put out, what I needed to be known by, right? I started doing those things. And I also started looking out for people who had those results I desired, and I started paying the price. I started paying the price because I remember when I started organizing international events, it didn't just happen. I traveled first time out of Nigeria in 2017 to attend another event in Ghana that I paid $50. I remember I got into Ghana for the first time in my life with only 6 CDs home and abroad. It was an equivalent of 480 naira. I didn't have any other money anywhere in the world, right? In a foreign country, because of the hunger to learn, because of the desire to learn. And because of that desire, that was where that year I quickly built collaboration. So I had somebody I knew. I quickly said, I have this idea. Let's organize this thing for some people. And we organized the first event, 2017, but it wasn't paid. I was scared of putting money to it. Now I attended another event, I paid. I was scared of telling people to pay for this one. And we had like 52 people. It was a free program. And eventually we were able to get money enough for me to pay for one certificate or something like that. And I didn't also have money to come back. And eventually I got back to Nigeria. But it was while I was coming back from that trip, halfway, that it was like my mind popped.
Wow.
Raymond, this thing that these people did, that I took all this risk in my wretched nature, my broke nature, to go and pay $50. What do you think? Why do you think people flew all the way from other countries to this place to attend? And why did you, knowing that you did not have money, go there? The result, the answer to this question was what made me to say, if they can do it, I can do it. Exactly 1 year later, I was having my very first event in Ghana, and then it was $200, and everybody was like,
wow,
how is it possible? And we had 32 people that flew from 10 countries, and they were part of that meeting. And so, but what I'm saying is that what I've done are not rocket science. They are things that anyone can do. Just find out what exactly you desire for your life, right? Identify people who have had those success, because they are not new. Be willing to pay. Be willing to pay. Be willing to pay. A lot of people want result, but they don't want to pay what it requires. You want to write a book, you want people to buy your book, you must be willing, ready to buy other people's books. You want people to pay for your courses, you must pay for other people's courses. You want to organize events and people pay you in dollars. Before people started paying me money in dollars to attend my event, I paid in dollars to attend other people's events, and I have not stopped, because that's the way life functions, right? And then I want to say 2 key things lastly. One of them is environment. I believe that, environment where people learn is more important than what they are learning. One of the things that helped me from the beginning was, changing my environment. Environment constitutes a lot. We really cannot grow beyond the influence of our environment. So I changed my environment. So I knew that, this place I've been staying, it doesn't matter how spiritual I was, I needed to leave. Even there's a place the Holy Book will say you have to flee from every appearance. It wasn't just about the stuff. It means that, it's not doubting that you can fight.
Yes.
But that energy you would have used to fight the environment, you can actually produce more when you get into an environment that allows and appreciates your dream. That's then second thing is our association. I believe that, relationship is one thing that will pay us in the long term beyond our competence. No matter how competent we are, our relationship is going to pay us way, way, way more. So we must be willing to review the associations and the relationship that we have. Today, I mean, yes, a lot of people know me in different places, but it doesn't mean that they're in my space. I just have people that I am accountable to for the things that I do. So you must be able to review your association, because you can't be going with people that are going towards a different direction. You must have people that inspire you, based on what they are doing. One of the best friends to have are people that are not threatened by your success. You see, when you have people that are not threatened by your success, it means that they also have what they are doing. They have their own vision. They have their own, what is keeping them awake at night. So when you come together, you just share values, do reviews about what you're doing. Everybody can move. Association and environment are very vital, and then we'll be willing to pay the price. Every other thing is not rocket science. You can always get them.
I think I need to just take a moment to really reflect on all you've shared. I mean, especially that part where you said you traveled for without even having the capacity, financial capacity, and then a year later you're able to replicate same success. But that's because you put a mirror before you. And a lot of people want to achieve certain things, but they've not gotten in a space where that thing is being achieved. And so it doesn't fuel the motivation for them to even achieve that thing they want to achieve. And this is very, very instructive. Now let's move to your book. I know you're an author and you wrote a book on passion for profit mastery, right? And which emphasizes transforming individuals into profitable brand. People have passions. Sometimes we are so passionate, we are moving, but at the end of the day, they are broke. I think one of my friends said, don't be popularly broke. You're popular, but you're broke. There's no money, and at some point you become depressed, you become frustrated. So how can individuals, actionable tips that individuals can, take to convert that passion into profits?
All right, thank you so much. Most times people say I don't like talking about my book. Why don't I like talking about it? But when I wrote my book in 2020, I wrote that book not because people were writing books or I just wanted to be an author. I wrote that book from a place of pain because I had done a teaching during COVID called Passion to Profit Mastery. And after that class, I felt like virtue left me, because it's like I poured myself. I just knew something just left me. And so 2 days later, someone sent me a message and said that while I was talking, she was crying, and that got to me. That was when I felt I had to go back to the message again on the WhatsApp. And I felt like, okay, this is serious right now, But I wrote that book because I told you I have a background in volunteering for 6 years. So it means I did a lot of work with NGOs. And back in the days, NGOs, thrived a lot on funding. So when they get funding, they can execute. So when they don't have funding, they are there. So, and being that was the experience that formed my very foundation. So I didn't know how to attach money to things. I didn't know how to attach money to the things that I did, and now at some point I felt like people have passion. I was very passionate about this thing. When I started working with young people now, I was very passionate. I'll borrow money, I'll organize this, I'll go here.
I've been in your shoes.
And everybody will be telling me, well
done. I'm so proud of you.
You are doing so well, you are doing this and
they
that.
They are squeezing you.
Everybody's telling you, and when everybody leaves and you just
empty.
go by one side and
take stock
all the
of your
people you are owing will not just start appearing, right? So but I wrote that book because it doesn't make sense. Passion is a very beautiful thing to have, especially if you want to achieve very sustainable goals for your life. But how is it that you can have this? It cannot be sustained if there is nothing that is fueling that. So I wrote that book because it is possible. I looked at my life and I said, how is it possible that this same thing I used to borrow money and I will get in, owe people here and there. Some years later, people are paying me money in dollars to be part of the same thing, right? So I discovered that one of the, you asked me, actionable tips is that there are a lot of people who have passion, but their passion is not a need for people. You see, it doesn't matter what you're passionate about. If it is not a need that people are willing to pay for, then it's going to be with you. Someone said, oh, I have a passion for carrying babies. Okay. And then the passion you have for carrying babies you are living in an environment where families have people that are already carrying their baby. You see, doesn't matter how much you are passionate about it,
As far as in
you're not
that
gonna make money,
environment, you won't make money.
right? So you want to look at that. Secondly, is that your passion must also be something that must be able to scale. So I love carrying babies, and then I have to carry your child, for instance. I can only carry one child in one house per time. So it means whatever it is you're paying me, it's only you that can pay me. So am I able to carry 30 babies and 30 families can pay me at the same time? No. So a lot of people have passion that is regimented by location and within an environment or within a specific group of people that cannot scale. So they have those problems. So one of those tips was first of all, make your passion a need. You have to review and ensure that this passion is actually something people need. Another thing I did was that I traveled, right? To be able to convert your passion into profit, you need to know that whatever it is that is your passion is something that the world is in need of. And there are some opportunities that you can never get sitting in your room. You have to move out. In fact, there are some opportunities, there are some passion you have that the people around you will never appreciate. That as stupid as it is, the only people that will appreciate it are people that are in a different environment, people who never knew about how you grew up, who never knew your background, who never knew when you were, when you were struggling and all that. So the second thing I did was I traveled. I traveled a lot, went to different environments where I spoke about the same thing that I was passionate about. So what happened is that by the time they appreciated and encouraged and rewarded the things that I was doing, by the time I was coming back home, it was like welcoming a king back. Like, wow.
You came back with results.
Today I get invitation from presidents of countries, and now I've never been invited by the president in Nigeria. And then
I saw your work with Rwanda.
yeah, I've never been invited by a president in Nigeria. But then when they see, oh, that's presidents of other countries are inviting this guy in Nigerian, what exactly is he doing? We just got back from Rwanda, where we had an exclusive engagement with the new minister of youth in Rwanda. And after a very big interaction, I was coming back and somebody said, Raymond, is it true that did you actually meet the minister? I said, it doesn't matter about meeting or not meeting. The most important thing for me is actually the opportunities that we have been able to provide for young people. So for you to convert your passion to profit, first of all, it has to be a need. Secondly, you must move from your environment to an environment where it will be appreciated. I traveled a lot. And we're talking about traveling. A lot of people see traveling as a cost. I see traveling as an investment. Because for me, traveling is an advanced form of education. Traveling is an advanced form of education. So when I travel because there is something I learn that I will never learn in the four walls of a classroom, even if I spend 10 years there, right? Even now that I'm studying abroad currently now, again, I'm not studying medicine again because...
Well, what are you studying?
The work that I do that I deal a lot with international communities. So I'm currently studying political science and international relations.
That's a perfect
because
fit.
of the work that I'm doing. So even now that I'm studying abroad, I'm not locked down there. I also created room to be able to, move around, because as I'm moving around, I'm acquiring knowledge that is further, I'm gaining experiences that is further reinforcing the knowledge I'm getting from the class. So when I wrote my book, it's really because it is possible for an ordinary individual to move to become a profitable brand. But one of the things is that you have to do this thing. Then we have to take our personal brand very, very seriously. I started talking about personal brand when I realized that it is the future of business. Personal brand is the future of business. In fact, back in those days, you can have a CEO who never showed up anywhere at all, and the product is going. But today, it doesn't matter what product you are selling, even if it can resurrect the dead. People want to see the person who is behind it.
With the human.
People want to see the person. So that's why you can see people like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, they are coming out to put their faces to say, you trust in me, you believe in my reputation. Now I am the face behind this product, because personal brand is the future of business. So I started building personal brand because it is when people know you. How do they know you? They are always seeing you. It is when people like you. How do they like you? That they have been seeing you and they can connect to your values. And it is when people trust you, when that your values has been tested over time, that they can now do business with you. That's when they can pay for your passion. So if you follow these 3 steps I just mentioned, there's a whole lot of other things on the book, but follow these 3 steps, that passion has to be a need.
Amazing.
Secondly, you must be able to move to an environment that appreciates that. Thirdly, your personal brand, you must be able to convert it, build a very quality personal brand, because it's only when you build a strong personal brand that people can know you, they can like you, they can trust you.
Amazing.
Then they will be able to pay you money for your passion.
Wow. Well, just permit me, just for clarity's sake, what was that point it dawned on you that, oh, I need to go into fully into community impact? And how did you even start the Youth Spark? I mean, were you sleeping and you heard my son, going into 15 countries to impact African youth? Or how was it like? I'm just because you've moved from science to government.
Yeah.
How did you now finally?
So what happened is that first is that as a young person, I remember within the period I was at the SA to the head of service, I one thing I also didn't mention was that at some point I was just so privileged to have served as a personal aide to Dr. Miles Monroe of blessed memory. And I was one of the people that I was with him, flesh and blood. I spent days with him. When you are attached to someone,
so happy I'm sitting down by your side.
When you are, attached to someone as an aide, it means you are with the person. They want coffee, they want tea, they want anything, they want to speak. You have to set up their laptop. So I had that very close, access to him. And one day, a lot of people didn't know him. Now I didn't know him. Now I was privileged to have met him twice actually. The first time I had that opportunity, I didn't know him, which is also like the place of knowledge. Also, being able to really know, being prepared before opportunities show up. The first time that I had that access to him in 2012, I didn't know him. I guess God gave me another opportunity to say this is it. And in 2013, he came back and I was sent to pick him from the airport. I remember, before he left, one of those days we were talking in his room. I was alone with him in his room where he gave me one of his books, and then he told me that every genuine vision will always make provision.
Wow. Yeah. Every genuine vision will always make provision.
Now, I didn't understand what that means until many years later when I had done a lot of things and I look back and I'm looking at what could have really, really, brought about the results that we had over the years. In fact, I made a post on my social media on my timeline this morning. I think it's on my WhatsApp where I was saying something about I just took time to really look at the financial records of what we have done in the last couple of years. And it's way over $200,000. And then revenue, I was like, how was this going to happen for someone who didn't, at the point have access to a university and all that? But then back to what you asked me. So during those days where I was working, I saw a lot of young people who were like myself, who were in school. Now I wanted to go to school to study. I didn't have anyone to send me to school. I wasn't informed. And, but then I saw other fellow young people who had parents that could pay their school fees, could give them pocket money, who could pay their house rent and all that. But they are the ones that we are constituting nuisance in the society. But they come to me and they'll tell me they are inspired with what I was doing. And it didn't make sense. At the beginning, it used to be sweet when people are saying good things about you. But at some point, you start wondering, this thing can also be you. You can't be saying you're inspired with what I'm doing, but then you are constituting nuisance in the society. So it's really started getting me thinking. Say, okay, Raymond, if these people are saying they're inspired by what you're doing, and you think that they should be doing more, why not help them? So that if only they can do part of what you're doing, their parents supporting them will now be an added advantage. So think of someone who is already, building themselves in this, building themselves, building good association, and then they just have just one person who can believe in them to give them resources to their vision, to their studies, to their businesses, whatever. It's going to blossom. So that was actually why I said, you know what? I already have an experience working in the community. So I stay in the community. I see how people are going through all kinds of issues. Then I come back to the city. I am working with the government. I see how resources are available, and then they doesn't get to these people. And then on the other side, I see fellow young people who are getting across to me to say they're inspired with what I'm doing. Meanwhile, they can't discipline themselves enough to do the same thing that I'm doing, even though I didn't have the resources. So I felt like, okay, the only way to get across to these people is that I can't reach them as Raymond Okpani. If I was going to reach out to these people, then I just have to be able to do it under a platform. So there has to be a platform that will drive that conversation.
Amazing.
So that was actually what started up. What we started at the time, it was Raise a Youth Foundation, which is like Ray Foundation, RAY, my name. And then we started having a lot of engagement conversation, working with core members, because I also believe that, core members are like one of the most blessed people in Nigeria, even if they don't know it, because these guys have the kind of overwhelming access that a lot of people will struggle for in Nigeria. Just by wearing a core member, the uniform that they wear, and having very good value system and character, you can penetrate into any part of this country. You are able to buy access. You're able to buy goodwill. When people say, "Oh, Copper we, Copper Sean, Copper
and they're
whatever,"
giving you that respect.
fantastic. That is like a penetrating mechanism for you to, be the best you can be at any point. But what do we have? You're serving, you just go for CDS, you just do this. At the end of the day, 10 months is over, and it's done on you that you've wasted. So we started having a lot of conversation with core members then, and reaching out to young people in university at the time. I remember at the time we started what we call Wisdom Breakfast. And the idea behind Wisdom Breakfast was that, think about young people like myself who at the end of every weekend, of course, the weekend we know that they play football, they watch football. Now, I used to play football, very well at the point, but responsibility comes, vision comes, and then we'll have to start check priorities. But look at every weekend, a lot of young people go out there, they spend a lot of their time and their energy watching football, and then they get back to the university on Monday morning. And the first thing that they are doing is to try to argue and analyze over the matches that were played over the weekend. Now, what do you think that is happening to their mental energy? What's happening is that by the time they engage in those back and forth, when the lecturer finally shows up to teach, there is no miracle anywhere. They would have dissipated a particular part of their mental capacity. So they would have used part of their energy to make that argument, so that when a teacher is coming, when a lecturer is coming, they're already feeling tired. They're already feeling stressed. They're already feeling like, we don't need this. So when we started Wisdom Breakfast, what we did was that we get to the school very early in the morning, at the university environment very early in the morning, and we access the classes before lecturer shows up.
Wow.
And so what we do is to do some personal development talk in the morning, and we try to remind all of them that, listen, you are not going to be here with the other person next to you in the next 3-4 years, depending on the class that we enter. So you're going to move. And whatever you do now is going to determine what happens then. If you waste your time this morning discussing football, in the next 2-3 years, that person close to you, their parents are going to send them abroad, and you're going to suffer. So that's had a way of discouraging a lot of people. So you find out that after our tour, when we leave, when somebody is coming to tell you about somebody comes to tell you about football, you start suspecting the person. So, but that also started preparing a lot of people's mind for the lecture. So people can actually focus on, what really matters, especially at the very early part of the morning. So those are the things we were doing. Amazing. And until we pivoted in 2017 to Youth Spark Pan-Africa, because we wanted to be able to reach out to more people beyond the shores of Nigeria. And that's actually what we have done.
Amazing. And you're doing such an amazing, you're very, very inspiring. To me and, a lot of other African youths. Wow. This has been such a masterclass. Please, in 30 minutes, just give us final words for our viewers out there.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. So there are 2 quotes that I'm going to sign out with. One of them is that I always say that a lot. First is that in this life, there will always be so many things to worry about. Just make sure they are not small things. Whenever there are a lot of things bothering you, all of us have things that are bothering us, even the richest man in the world. We must always make sure we are not thinking about small things. That's the first thing. The second point is the fact that when you take care of small things in your life, your mind will be open to think about big things. Thank you.
Wow. This is something we have to sit back to really reflect about. Thank you so much, Raymond, for taking our time to share with us. It's been such a powerful masterclass, and I'm so honored to have you on this couch with us.
Thank you for having me.
Till next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It's been such an exciting conversation. Again, as you know, Voices with Victoria. Please do well to follow our guest, Raymond Okpani, everywhere on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and get his book. In fact, his book is so powerful. What you've seen here is just a snippet. Until next time, do have a fantabulous, exciting experience. Bye for now.
Thanks for watching Voices with Victoria. Please like, leave a comment, subscribe, and share. Cheers!